Let's do a live today. I haven't done a live in a little while, so let's do a live today. So today we're gonna talk about gardening because it's gardening season right now. It's gardening. We're into spring right now, and I'm so happy about that. So I have the gardening bug already, but I've not planted much this year. It's just gonna be some onions and some radish and some lettuce. That's all I'm planting, right? That's all I am planting this year. Um, because you guys already watch my channel, you know the deal, right? You know why I'm doing that this year. All right. So you're gonna see a full garden. I'm gonna do a full garden maybe in the end of July or the first week of August. That's when I'm gonna start my big garden. All right. Exciting. I'm so excited. All right. So let's talk about gardening today. Let's talk about gardening like a pro because I feel like I'm a garden pro now. Honestly, guys, I feel like I'm a pro when it comes to gardening because I've been gardening for so much years. So I'm like, okay, let me share some nuggets on this live for you guys. Because I have a lot of things I can tell you guys about gardening. I can tell you my successes, and I want to share that with you guys today because I know there's a lot of gardeners out there and you guys want some good gems, things that you know that works in your garden. So let's share that with you. So I think the biggest problem that us gardeners have is with pests. But if you been watching my videos, you would see that I say I don't actually have a lot of issues with pests. Even when I was gardening in an urban space, I had hardly any pests whatsoever. I had a little bit of snails, but yeah, snails and no, not snails, slugs. And then I had a cabbage. The cabbage is a cabbage butterfly. Yeah, the cabbage butterfly. I had that 1 year, and then that was it. So I don't really have a lot of problem with pests. And now that I'm gardening now, it's been almost 5 years. I'm gardening in my rural country space now, and I can't really say I have a lot of problem with pests. Um, Last year and the year before, we had a little bit of snails because I don't know, we just had like an influx of snails, and the snails ate some of my cabbages on one new garden that I created. So that's basically it. And I just had to let out all my chickens to roam around. And once they roam around, they ate a lot of the snails. And yeah, that's it. But I think the snails had multiplied because I had been enclosing my chickens. Usually I just let my chickens free roam and they would just take care of the snail issue. But because I've been enclosing them, because we have foxes and we have all these wild animals now that is like really close to the house, so I can take the opportunity to leave them outside because I don't want them to be eaten. So I think that's why the snails were like, yeah, nobody's eating us, so they multiply. And then we have these black crickets, but those black crickets, they don't really munch too much. They're just everywhere hopping around. But like I said, I let my chickens out to have a feast on them and bring the population under control. So even if I think they wanted to eat stuff, they're not eating my crops. So I don't really have a lot of issues with pests when it comes to those kind of pests. And anytime I see my vegetables and stuff are being eaten, I just apply certain stuff. But I do certain things in the beginning of my growing season so I don't have a pest issue. And I think that's one of the big things that I am doing. That is why I don't have the problem with pests. So let me tell you some of the things that I do in my garden so that I don't have a problem with pests. And even if the pests come, I just deal with them right away, like I said. So the first thing when I start gardening is I focus on my soil. Now, in your soil, there are soft bodied insects that lay eggs, and every year after the winter, these insects they hatch and then they come back in in like abundance. So for example, if you have like cabbage worms or something like that, they would hatch the eggs in the soil, and then the next season when you plant your cabbages, they would hatch and they would just munch on your cabbage to no end. So what you have to do is you have to treat your soil. And I think a lot of gardeners, they do not treat their soil. So what I do is I go through my soil, like especially my beds that I'm going to plant in any leafy green inside, and I treat the beds. And I'm going to tell you the recipe, what I use to treat my beds. And this is something you really have to do because when you treat the beds, you're actually uh, eliminating all the soft-bodied insects and eggs that they have laid in your soil. You're getting rid of them, right? So they would not come back and they would not eat your leafy greens. Now, the things that I grow in the pots, I do the same thing. You just have to like till the pots a little bit, turn the soil over, and then after you basically do the same treatment. For any way that you're going to be planting stuff, do the same thing. Hello, welcome to the live. So do that for every place that you are going to be planting your crops, okay? And don't skip that, because I think a lot of people just skip that step. And so all these little insects that are in your soil, oh yeah, they can't wait to come alive to have a feast on your things that you're planting in that. So you got to treat your soil. That's the first thing you got to do when you're starting to plant. Treat your soil. Welcome everybody to the chat. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you guys. Give the video a thumbs up. So once you treat your soil, you eliminate a lot of problems. So let me tell you the recipe for treating your soil. Now, there's a lot of recipes out there, and I don't know if they work or not, but I will tell you what works for me. So I like to treat my soil with oil, pine essential oil, soap, and neem oil. These are the things that I like to treat my soil with. I repeat myself: neem oil, soap, any kind of soap, dish soap, any soap you have, okay? And I make my own soap, so I use my own soap, but you can use dish soap too. It works because I've used dish soap before and it works, right? But I use, because I make my soap and I want to make sure that there's no chemical in my soap, I tend to use my own soap that I created, because in the dishwashing soap, I don't know what's in it, but like I said, I used a couple of times on my salt. I didn't have a problem with it, okay? So if you don't have some kind of organic soap, you can use that soap that you buy. You could just use dish soap, okay? So I said dish soap, neem oil, pine essential oil, and just some regular cooking oil. That's it. And you want to mix that up together, and you want to treat your soil. Now, I tend to put that warm on my soil. Like, I mix this mixture up in warm water because I want the oil to be like dispersed. And sometimes I add a tiny bit of baking soda so it will stay mixed longer. Now, don't worry about the baking soda. It's not going to hurt your soil. But if you want this mixture to stay like together, the baking soda, it kind of acts like an emulsifier, but not just for the time that you need it. It's just going to emulsify everything, the oil, the essential oils and everything. Now, I use pine essential oil because it has a strong smell. And I notice that when I spray my garden with the pine essential oil, I don't have a problem with things eating my leaf. So I do that. Now, you want to put like maybe 10 or 20 drops in like a 5-gallon bucket, right? That's the amount you want to put. Because if you put too much, you may burn your leaf. But anyways, you just mix that all up and then you apply it to your soil. So you just want to get those big buckets there. It's a 5-gallon, 5 liter. It's a 5-liter bucket that you store stuff in. You know those white bucket that you buy from Home Depot? You're gonna get a big one like that. And then you fill it up with water, you put your oil and everything inside of it, and you mix up really well. And then you just take a watering can and you just water soak. You want to soak all the soils on your beds that you're going to be planting in. And when you're done soaking it down completely, make sure the soil is completely drenched. The places that you're going to be planting leafy greens in, like your cabbage, any leafy green, pak choy, bok choy, collard greens, what else? Cauliflower, any of those leafy green vegetables that you're going to be planting in that area, you want to take a cover. So you're going to get some kind of plastic cover, like, those covers that you cover your soil with. You're going to want to take that and you're going to cover your soil. Hi, boy, got big teeth. I hope I pronounced your name right. Welcome to the chat. So you want to cover the soil with a plastic, or you want to cover with the netting. Like they sell some garden netting. You want to cover the soil. So once you drench it with your treating mixture, you want to cover it cover it and leave it cover for at least 3 to 4 days, because you want that to stay in the soil and you want to actually get rid of the soft bodied insects and all those tiny little pests that is in there. So that's why you want to cover it. So you cover it. And when you cover it, anything that is out there that want to get in your soil is not going to get in because it's covered. Anything that you miss, want to crawl into your soil, it's not going to get into your soil because it's covered. And that's what you want to do. So leave it covered. Don't uncover it until you are ready to plant. So if you're not going to plant in a week, leave it covered for the week. If you're going to plant in 2 weeks, leave it completely covered. And the reason why you're leaving it completely covered is, like I said, you are making sure that everything is contained in there and they're actually going to die. That's the whole point of that. And if you notice that you cover it and then the soil get dry, you just go back again and just add some more of that treatment that you make and put it on your soil. A lot of people miss that step, but you have to do that because every year you grow in your bed, like things are in the soil and you want to get rid of them. I know some of you are going to ask me, oh, what's about the earthworms in the soil? So this treatment is not going to hurt earthworms. It's not. It's not going to kill the earthworms in your soil. It doesn't affect them. Okay? So don't worry about the earthworms. The earthworms are going to be fine. It's just the soft-bodied insects and those little pesty little things that you don't want to come up. Like there's some tiny, tiny bugs that looks like, I don't even know how to call them. They looks like millipede or centipede or something like that, but they're very, very tiny. I don't know what their name is, but they're in your soil, and these, they like to come out and eat your greens. There's some little kind of caterpillar looking thingies. I don't even know how they call them, but I know they sting if they bite you. They're like can multiply in droves. I see them a lot in the soil, and they love to be on your greens and eat your greens. Like they don't hurt anything except eat your greens. So these ones, you want to get rid of them. So that's why you're going to treat your soil. Okay. So once you do that and your soil is covered, you will be fine. And then you can plant your vegetables, your greens, whatever you're going to plant when you're ready to do that. So do not omit treating the soil. That's a step a lot of gardeners miss. And especially if you're a new gardener and you're just starting, you still want to do the same thing. Every single year, if you're a seasoned gardener, every single year you want to treat your soil. Every single year, don't miss that. If you're a new gardener starting, before you start to plant anything, treat the soil. Something else I want to talk about with the soil is when you're starting your garden, you want to make sure that you have native soil in your garden. So native soil is soil that belongs to the area that you're in. So the native soil is like obviously the soil that is right in front of you, right? So you want to add some of your native soil into your beds. Don't miss that step. The native soil contains microorganisms, good bacteria, and little how do you call that? These are like good bacteria, actually good bacteria, fungi that is in the soil that's going to help your soil. So many people start a garden and they go and they buy stuff from Home Depot. They bring in all this soil and compost into their garden, but they don't put any native soil. And that's a big problem because you're bringing in all this stuff from outside and you're actually bringing in organisms that doesn't belong to the area, and you may as well be bringing in pests and diseases into your area, right? And I don't think many people pay attention to that. So by using native soil, you'll be able to combat anything that you take outside and bring it into your garden. So pay attention to that. So what I like to do is, if I was starting a garden right now, I would go into my nearby forest and I'll get some leaves, I'll get straw, I'll just scrape up some of the top soil and just bring that into my garden. So I will create like a microbiome of good microorganism in my garden area. And that's what you want to do. Don't be going out there and buying everything from Home Depot and bringing in all these foreign things into your environment, and you're not using you're using your local species that are in there. Because when you use your local organisms, they would balance off the system inside your garden. So please pay attention to that. Yes, you can buy your stuff out there, but like I said, make sure you have that native soil in your garden also, because that would really help you to fight pests. I see people have aphids, nematodes, all kind of stuff in your garden. Well, these things came from somewhere, and most of the times you bring them in with you. One year I bought compost. Oh my gosh, in my garden, and it was a disaster. My plants, they just die. And some of my leaves, my leafy greens, they curled up, they turned brown. My tomatoes were looking funny. I don't know what happened. And I was like, oh no, I brought in something in my garden because I bought some soil outside. And after that, I'm like, never again. I will bring in soil, but I will make sure that 30% of that soil that I'm going to put in my garden is outside if I need to bring in, but I'll make sure 70% of everything else that I put into my soil, it's compost or native soil from my nearby area. I'll bring that into my space because I need to combat all those other stuff that I'm going to bring in. And yeah, that was the last time I think I had that was the last time I had any problems with like my garden. I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed because my greens, they look terrible. They look terrible. And then some kind of spiders were like making, I don't know, like they were making their homes. Like when the leaf curled, then some spiders went in and make their home. And I was like, oh my goodness. But like I said, I know I bought that in because I brought in stuff from the, I brought in outside soil. And actually that year, I did not treat my entire garden. And that spot that I did not treat had a problem. Yes, that spot that I didn't treat had a problem. So yeah, it really works. Now let's move on to point number 2. Let's talk about the soil texture. Now, your texture of your soil is very, very important. So I like to mix my soil with, actually my soil mix, I'll tell you my soil mix that I have like awesome, like I don't have any problems with my soil. I have good success with my soil. And I make a mixture of compost. I make like 70% of my compost, guys. No joke. Like everything that I eat that is fruits and vegetable goes to my compost. I turn it over and I just make a lot of compost. I even use my native soil and I put on top of my compost. That's what I do, yeah. So I go and I dig up my soil. I put a whole bunch of soil on the side by my compost bin. And every time I put my fruit inside of my compost, I just put some soil at the top. And this helps your food to break down really, really quickly. And then I go and I turn it over, I add more soil. So I'm mixing my own native soil with my compost continuously. So I have a lot of compost. I have no issue when it comes to compost, right? And as you can see, we have a lot of land, right? So if I need soil, I can always go dig up some soil. But I also bring in some regular peat moss. I also get some, what do you call that? Like wood shavings. I get some wood shavings. But what I do is every year I collect my wood shavings, and I also collect wood chips. And if I collect them this year, the wood chips that I have for this year, I'm not going to put it in my garden this year. I'm going to leave it outside, cover it with a tarp, and then I'm going to leave it for the next year. That's what I do. So every year I always get wood chips and I save them for the next year because I want them to break down. And I also treat my wood chips. Yes, guys, I treat my wood chips because one year I didn't treat my wood chips. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. So I'm never going to do that again. I treat my wood chips. I do the same mixture like I told you guys in the beginning. I treat my wood chips and I cover it with a tarp and I leave it there. And then the next year I apply it to my garden. So like this year, obviously I'm not saving any wood chips, but if I was making a big garden this year, I was going to be getting the wood chips from last year. So that's how I do it. And when you do the wood chips like that, the wood chips get a chance to decompose and to break down. And then now, once it starts to break down, all those little fungi and good bacteria start inoculating the wood chips. So now when you put it on your garden, it's just amazing because all those little soil microorganisms that the soil need is inside the wood chips, and it's eating that wood chips and it's providing nutrients for your plants. That's how I do my wood chips. And then my wood chips, they start looking white. So when you see your wood chips start looking whitish, that means fungi is growing in it. That's what you want. You just spread that all over your garden, and I'm telling you, you won't have any pests at all. Anyway, this is what I do. So for me, the soil texture is so important. So for my mix, I like to mix compost, sand, yes, sand. I know a lot of people, they don't put sand in their soil, but I add sand in my soil because sand is excellent for drainage. Now you don't want to put like a whole bunch of sand, but I'll tell you the ratio in a minute. Then I put peat moss, I put perlite, and some of my native soil. And of course, I add my bone meal. Bone meal is my favorite. And then I make my bokashi compost. If you want to see how to make bokashi compost, you can go on my video and you can see how, I think I have 2 or 3 videos on bokashi compost. All you need is you can use rice bran or you can use regular bran, and then you add fermented milk to it. You leave it to ferment for about a week, then you put it to dry once it's ferment, and then you add it. So I put that, this is like my go-to. And the bokashi has everything inside of it. And that fermentation is just the best because the soil just love that bokashi. So I put it every single year, and my plant leaves are like green and the leaves are big, and it's just amazing. The day I started using bokashi, I think it was the day like my garden just flourished to the max. So I always use bokashi and I make my own, like I said. Okay. So this is my mix. So when I'm mixing my soil, I put 40% compost. I know people say like, oh, don't put too much compost. Listen, I put 40% compost in my garden. Lots of compost. Now I do not sieve my compost. What I do is I dig up the compost that I want. Then I lay it down on like a bag or inside my wheelbarrow, and I use a glove and I like push the compost from side to side. I'm doing that because I want to get rid of like any pieces of sticks or any big pieces of things that I actually do not want in the compost. So I get rid of all that stuff. And then the rest, I leave it. And the rest, which is kind of semi broken down, I leave it because I want it to break down in the bed or in the pots that I'm putting it in. And this is going to add a bulk to your soil. It's going to help your soil drain more. And as these things break down, it's going to add extra nutrients to the plant roots. So that is why I do not sieve my soil. And it helps my soil to have more body and help my soil to be more soft. I find like I used to sift my compost, but I find when I sift the compost, my soil is not as soft and it makes my soil a little bit more compact. So I need to add that bulk, that extra, bulk to my soils. So when I add that, it works really well. So I put 40% compost. I put like 5% sand. Yes, sand, just regular sand. Try to get your sand in like in a clean place, I just put sand, especially if you have sandy soil, just go dig up some sand if you have land, or if you're living close to the beach or something like that, you can get some sand. And so I put maybe about 1 to 2% of sand. Then I use peat moss. Peat moss, again, it's bulky. And I usually buy the peat moss at the store, and I get it not very expensive. I buy it just when the season's starting, so I get a little bit cheaper, or I buy it at the end of the gardening season, so it's even way cheap then. So I usually buy 2 bags, and it's 4 cubic, so it's like compact. And then once you open the bag, it just gets bigger. So I use the peat moss, and the peat moss doesn't really add any nutritional value, but it adds bulk and it makes the soil very, very fluffy. And it also hides microorganisms. It provides like a home for microorganisms. So this is great. Something else to add to my soil is charcoal. So just buy some regular charcoal, the cooking charcoal that you're going to cook your food in. And then you want to put it inside a bag, and you just want to smash it. and then you just add it together with your soil mix. Now, the charcoal doesn't add any really nutritional value, but it helps the soil to stay clean. It cleans your soil, and it also prevents pests and diseases from coming into your soil. So charcoal is really, really, really good. And then again, microorganisms like to make their home inside the charcoal. And these microorganisms are good for your root system. So it's a win-win. And fungi also grow inside the charcoal. So it's a win-win situation when you put the charcoal. So these are the things that I put in my soil year after year after year. And I have amazing, amazing abundance of food. Okay. So if you do that, I'm telling you, you're going to have you're going to be happy and thank me later. Okay. Now, good soil bacteria means that your soil is balanced, and any little other fungi or any other bad bacteria that's going to want to come into your soil, the good bacteria is going to get rid of them. So they would not be able to multiply to attack your plants, whether it be nematodes, whether it be like any kind of disease that's going to affect the root structure, or it's going to affect the stem structure. Any of that things that is going to be in your soil, the microorganisms are going to balance it off. So they're not going to multiply. So it's not going to be a problem for your soil. And that's what you want to be thinking about when you start gardening. The soil, the soil, the soil is very important. Yeah, we want to have a bountiful harvest, but the soil must be perfect. The soil must be excellent. And once the soil is excellent, everything will walk upwards. All right. So just remember that. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is how to deter pests from your garden. Things that you can do, planting methods that you can start doing to prevent pests from invading your garden. I already talked about adding the native soil to the soils that you're going to bring in. But another thing that you want to do is, let me tell you something. One year, what happened one year? Oh yeah, the first year when I started gardening in my house, when we moved in our first house, when I started gardening, I noticed something was eating. I think I had like 1 or 2 pots with some greens in it. And I noticed something was eating it. And I was like, And the plants are very beautiful. Their leaves were big, and yeah. And that year I had used horse manure on my garden. And the horse manure was just excellent. And it was like, I don't know. My garden was just green, beautiful, fruiting, amazing. And I noticed a couple of pots that I had on one side with some greens were being eaten. And I was like, what is going ahead here? Look at this, my beautiful leaves were eaten. So I was like, but I also noticed on the other side of my garden where I had like a big catmint bush. It was so big that I had to like keep cutting it back. It was kind of taking up a lot of space and covering some of the plants. But it was flowering so beautiful. And I noticed that in that area, it was so green. There was nothing was eating those leaves, the greens that was on that area. So I said, I think the catmint is controlling the pests on that side. Whatever is eating over on the right side is eating on the left side. And also when we pass by, because our garden was like right in front of the house. So every time you pass by, you would smell the catmint. I'm like, I think this catmint is a pest deterrent. So I dug down and I took out some of the catmint. I just took just from the root, and in the pots that was being eaten, the leaves that was being eaten, I was like, okay, that pot, I'm going to plant the catmint inside of it. So I plant like two sprigs of catmint in each pot. And, in about a week, the catmint is very easy to grow. Once you take the root, in about a week, the catmint sprouted and they were fine. And I noticed I didn't see the plant being munched on again. And I'm like, okay, this catmint really works. And I just went around with all my pots and I put catmint in the pots. And in the other beds, I just stick catmint everywhere. If you know about catmint is a perennial. So anywhere you plant catmint is gonna take over, right? But what I did was I just plant one tiny, like one tiny sprig of catmint in every like spot that I wanted to plant. And then I chopped the head off, like the top, I chopped it off. And yeah, and that's what I did. And for the entire year, I did not have any pests in the garden. So I grow my things and there was no pest, there was nothing. I was like, whoa, this cat mint. Hi, brown coat blue. How are you? I said, this cat mint is just working amazingly. And I didn't let them branch off to have branches. I just let it grow up straight. And they grow up straight and they flower. And it was so beautiful in my garden. But I didn't have any pests. I was like, yeah. And the next year I did the same thing. And I'm like, yes, this cat mint really worked. So after that, I've been planting cat mint in my bed. But like I said, I keep it to just one straight stem. I chop the top off, and I leave it to flower. And once it flower, it doesn't make any stem going on the side. Okay? Cat mint, not regular mint. Cat mint. And if I see the next year, I see that cat mint had multiplied because it multiplied by the root system, I just pull it out. And I put it somewhere like on the end of the garden where I don't want it to like multiply. That's what I do. Okay? Yes, I'm so happy we have some good weather. Broncos blue. It's so amazing. Today, it's so hot. It's like 27 degrees today. It's like amazing. And yesterday was cooler. Today is so hot, but it's like, I hope that's the last of the cold weather. I really hope. Was out picking dandelions today. Yes. I didn't pick my dandelions yet because just a few started coming up. So I am going, maybe in a week or two, they're going to come up and then I'm going to get some of the roots and then I'm going to dry some for tea and for oil and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the dandelions flowers in on my property because I just go crazy with the dandelions. I just pick so much dandelions to make all kind of creams and lotions and butter. But you know, the weather here in Canada, it's just in my area, at least because I live rurally, we still had snow on the ground and yeah, so it's coming. But today's a beautiful day. Hopefully there will be no snow in the forest and everything will be melted. Yeah, that's great. The roots are awesome, eh? I love to collect the dandelions root. So the next thing that I plant in my garden is onions and chives. So I like to plant chives in my garden, but when you're planting the chives, plant the chives in the end of the beds. Plant in the end of the beds because the chives, when they come back the next year, they come back like in a bunch. They come back in a bunch, and so they can take over the bed if your space is small. Like you don't have, like me, my beds are like 8 by 10, so they're long. So I usually put like 2 chives on each end, on each side. So they're not going to be in the way of the other things. And then I put one like in the middle, so you can do that. But something that I've been doing for the past couple of years is I found this they're onions, but they're small onions. They're just like very small onions. They're white, small onions. If you guys go back and look at my video, you'll see I'm harvesting some very small white onions. They're very tasty and flavorful. So these onions, I buy them every year. They're very cheap. They're like a dollar, like $2. Say $2. I think this year I sent for $2.50, but there are 100 to 150 inside the bag. They're tiny onion bulbs. And then you can just stick them all over your garden. No, they don't come up really big. They look like chives when they're growing. So they don't take up a lot of space. But these are pest controllers. Like once you plant these all over your garden, that part of your garden is not bothered by pests. I'm telling you, even snails and slugs, they don't go there. And I learned that trick years ago, just by trial and error. I had found the onions and I said, oh, I'm going to plant these onions. And when I plant the onions there, because we had some slugs, that was the year we had slugs, and I planted the onions and I realized, hey, the slugs are not bothering this bed at all. So then I went back and I bought some more of these onions and I planted all over and slugs didn't bother the bed. So like I said, because I've been growing for so long, I notice things, I learn things. So every year I plant these white onions between every single thing. Even in a small pot, I put one or two. They just come up very straight, and you could just chop the top off if you want to make eggs or you want to add it to your food or anything like that, and you don't have to worry about it. But don't put big onions, because the big onions, they have a lot of foliage, so don't put the big onions. But if you can find the small white onions, they're amazing and they will deter pests. And the other thing I plant is chive, like I said, and when you're planting the chive, you have to be strategic with the chive. Now, there's many, I found different variety of chive. I find like a white chive, a purple chive, and a pink chive. These are the 3 different chives that I grow. I noticed that the purple chive and the pink chive, they have a very strong smell. So these are the ones that I would grow in my new garden this year, because I find they smell really, really strong, and they attract a lot of butterflies. And I don't know, some kind of little flies. I don't know what they are. I don't know the names for them, but I noticed a lot of those little flies are on the chive flower once they flower, and I think it is attracting them. And I guess other pests that are in the garden are going to come and eat these tiny flies. So these chives, I always put them in my garden. Like right now, they start to pop up their head already. I have so much. And it's just amazing because I don't have no issue with pests. So if you can plant chives all over your garden. But like I said, like, be strategic. The next thing I plant is marigold. But here this thing, guys. So the regular small marigold, that doesn't do anything at all. That doesn't work, because even in the same garden I was saying, you guys, where I had my cabbages being eaten and some leafy greens, marigolds were there, and nothing, whatever was eating it. Last year I even tried that again, because in this new house here, last year, you guys see my garden, I planted some greens and some red cabbages on top of a table. So I have this table and I put them on top of the table inside pots, and I had a circular bed. I put it on the table out there. And I went out one morning and I was like, oh no, I see my cabbages were looking munched. I was like, oh no. But I found the culprit. It was a couple of green caterpillars. And in the video I show you guys, I just grabbed them and I just squished them. Yeah, so they were green caterpillars. Now these caterpillars are going to turn into these butterflies, some whitish butterfly and some striped butterflies. I don't know the name, I can't tell you guys, okay? But I know they metamorphosize and they turn into that. And they were eating my cabbages. And I was looking for them during the day and I couldn't find them. Late evening, I find them, right? And they've been doing that for many, many days. But the good thing is they only ate about like 3. So I had time catch them before they get to the rest of the cabbages. But on that table that I had all this thing planted, there were the tiny marigolds. All the pots had these tiny marigolds inside of them, right? Because I know you guys talk about, oh, plant marigolds. But what I notice is the small marigolds, they don't work. But what works is the fluff ball marigold. There is a marigold called fluff ball. These are big and fluffy and they have a scent. They smell amazing. Now, these marigolds you have to plant. And I've been planting them on my farm and they work amazing. When you put them in the garden, they deter pests. But those other marigolds, I just plant them for beautification because I know they don't really deter pests. But the big fluff ball marigold, oh my gosh. Bees love it, insects love it, and it just smells amazing. I use it to make all kind of products. I just love passing by and smelling. Even if you pass by and you just brush up against it, it has a beautiful fragrance. When it rains and you go outside close to it, you smell that. That one works amazing, and I will plant this forever. The only thing about the fluff ball marigold, it's like a shrub. So it comes up and it gives a lot of, it gets wide. So one thing you can do is you can use a string and tie it, like tie the tree once it come up, or you can plant it at the end of your bed, like in the corner of your bed. You can plant like 3, one corner here, one in the next corner, and one in the middle. But you have to kind of control it, right? But like you can plant it maybe with some leafy, say if you're planting like kales, If you're planting spinach or something like that, you can plant those marigolds, the fluff ball marigold, because they'll come up tall and they'll act like a cover for your spinach. They'll give your spinach shade, and they'll also protect your leafy greens that's underneath it. So I learned that. And fluff ball marigolds are my marigolds. Okay, you have to go look up that fluff. Not There's fluff ball and there's puff ball. So puff puff ball, and the other one is fluff fluff. These ones amazing, and it's been like 2 years ago I came upon this marigolds by accident. I think I went to like my country. Yeah, it was this country place that I went to with some plants. I came upon that by accident. I was like, oh, what is that? And I see the sign says marigolds. I said, marigolds? I never know marigolds like grow like this so big. And I bought them and I saved my seeds and I never regret it. But these other regular marigolds, forget it. It's not going to deter pest in your garden. Anyways, guys, so that's it. And if you watch my plant video, I show you guys what the marigold look like. And I have a lot of seeds that I saved from last year, so I'll be planting like a mixture. I found another variety of the puff ball when I went shopping in the US. This video is coming, guys. It's coming. So I found another variety, and I'm going to try this variety, because this variety is not yellow. It has different colors on it, like red stripes on it. So I'm looking forward to grow that one, right? It's very fragrant. And most pests, they don't like things that has fragrance. So you need to put things that is fragrant in your garden that they don't like, so they would not come and munch your food. Now, they say that when you see your things are being eaten, it means that your garden is healthy. But honestly, guys, I don't want my things to be eaten. I just want to eat my stuff that I grow. Okay. No, thank you, Pest. I don't want to share nothing with you guys. Sorry. Oh. Now, something I want to also tell you guys about is in your garden, if you can come across like worm casting to feed your soil, also you can add this to your soil, because the worm casting is so amazing. Now, I farm mealworms. This year I don't have any mealworm. I got rid of my mealworms. I gave them to the chickens, because you guys know I have to get rid of everything because we're moving, right? So I am going to bring a couple of my mealworms with me, but I can't have the whole bunch, like the whole big container that I have. I kind of feel bad about that though. But I had such a nice colony going. So I feed my mealworms with rice, not with bran, just regular bran. I feed them with bran. And once they digest the bran becomes just like a very, very fine fertilizer, like a very fine worm casting. You have to be careful. If you have allergies, you have to wear a mask when you're harvesting the mealworm compost, and you can look it up online. So I love to use mealworm compost. I make it every year, and I start making it in January, so I have enough for the garden season. But I didn't make any this year. When I move, I'll make new ones, and I'll carry maybe a little small colony inside a container with me, so I can start a new colony there, because these mealworm casting, oh my goodness, guys, your garden will be amazing. Amazing, 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 amazing. And when I start in my new colony, in my new place, I'm going to come back and do another video for you guys to just show you guys how I start a new colony from scratch. Okay, so I'll show you guys that. So all right, so let's move on now. We talk about the plant, how to deter pests from your garden. Let's talk about how to make a pest spray, because if you have pests, you need to get rid of them. So I make a pest spray every year. Whether I see pests on my garden or not, I still spray them, because you never know, right? You never know. That's what I do. So what I do is I plant out I tell you guys from the beginning, I treat my soil, I do everything that I tell you guys, and make my soil mixture. And then the next thing I do is I make my pest spray. So my go-to pest spray is fermented garlic. I just buy regular garlic, I put it in a matter and a pestle, and I crush it. Once I crush it, I add sugar and water and I put that to ferment for a week or two. And usually I would start my fermenting of my garlic now when the spring is just coming in. So it's fermented and it's ready. And when I plant out my tomatoes and my stuff, and I just spray everything, all the leaves and the foliage and everything to protect them because they're young, and I just transplant them. So that's what I do, right? So I make a fermented garlic, and once that is fermented and it's ready, I add some essential oils to it. Guys, you have to start using essential oils in your garden. I use pine essential oil because it's cheap. I buy a big 1 liter and I pay like 20 something dollars. And this 1 liter pine oil I have, I use it in my soap. That's why I buy a big one. But this is my 3rd year with this pine essential oil. And it just smells so strong and it's amazing. And I use in my garden continuously. You don't need a lot. If you're going to make 4 liters, maybe you need about 15 drops. That's it. 15 drops of pine essential oil and your fermented garlic. You just dilute it with water. You put it in your spray thing and you just go around and you spray everything in your garden inside. And because the pine essential oil has a strong smell, like pests is not gonna come near it. They don't like that smell, so they don't come. Now, when it rains, it's gonna wash it away. So if you have like hot weather, you wanna spray that late at night or early in the morning when the dew is out. Don't spray in the midday, okay? Because sometimes if you spray in the midday, it kind of makes the plant look withered a little bit. So just be careful with that. Don't spray it in the middle of the day. It's too hot and it sometimes it affects the plant. So just spray it in the late evening, like nighttime. And slugs do not like this spray. I'm telling you right now. Slugs, they hate this garlic smell and they don't like the essential oil. So they don't come in your garden. And you could even spray it on the top of your soil if you see you have any slugs. I do that if I see 1 or 2 slugs and I didn't get them. I just spray it on the top of the soil, just the top so the scent remains. But when it rains, it will wash away. So just remember to spray it again. But I do that every week, once a week, once every 2 weeks. I just, I have the big 4 liter spray bottle. You know those things that you pump, the pumping thing like, and then I just go all over my garden, and it works like a charm. Just when you're mixing, make sure you use like a 4-gallon bottle. Or I like to make mine in those big storage container, like those Home Depot containers that you store rice and stuff in. I like to make mine in that, so I have a lot. So I would put like, if I'm doing the big the big bucket like that, I'll put like 25 drops of essential oils, and then I would use a large mason jar to ferment my garlic, and then I'll just put the whole jar, the large mason jar of garlic inside the bucket. Then I'll fill it up with water, so I'll have enough. So every time I want, I'll just go fill it up. Sometimes people make stuff and they don't dilute it enough. Make sure you dilute your stuff enough, because if it's not diluted enough, it's gonna burn the plant. It's gonna scorch them, and that's what you don't want. Okay, so make sure you dilute it a lot. So I can tell you guys, dilute. Now I've seen online that some people they boil certain things like marigold. I saw Stacy did a video. She boiled marigolds, and what else? Yes, she boiled marigold, and then she sprayed it on her plants. So I never tried that, but this year I'm gonna try this. You can also use pine leaves, like the pine needle. Just collect some pine needles. I do that, and then you can boil it, let it cool, and you can spray it all over your garden too. They don't like the smell of that. So if you can afford to buy pine essential oil, you can use the fermented garlic, and then boil a whole bunch of pine, and just leave it to cool, and then add your essential oils to that, and it will smell nice. The only thing about using the pine leaves is after about 4 days, the smell goes away in the bucket. But if you use the pine essential oil, the scent stays on long. So that's the only difference. So if you're gonna use the pine needles, then you just make what you want and you just spray it all over your garden, and it's done. And every time you want, you just gotta make some more. And you always have to have your fermented garlic to put in, right? So I usually tend to make a mason jar, and once I use that one mason jar, I just start another ferment. So I always have, and I have an abundance of pine at my house. I have like so many pine trees, so I don't really worry about that too much. I just go pick some and I just boil it and I just mix my mix. And I always have the fermented garlic to put in. So you can go that route. So you guys, I'm giving you solutions. You cannot afford the pine essential oil, then you just use the pine needles. Okay, use that, and that works amazing. Spray it all over your garden once every week. If it's raining, don't bother to spray because the rain is going to wash it out. It's just a waste of time. But once it's not raining, then you go, then you just spray, especially if you notice that you're having pests. And I said, like, I hardly have pests, but I still spray. And I think by me spraying and doing all that stuff, it prevents me from having any pests, right? And even when I don't spray everywhere, if I have extras, I just put it on my soil and I never have any problems. Like, I don't have any problem with my root or anything like that. Okay. The next thing I add to my soil is Epsom salt. Guys, Epsom salt is something that you guys don't know what you're missing. Like last year, I didn't put so much Epsom salt in my garden, and I see like my production of my tomatoes. I have got some tomatoes, but not as great as the years before. Like Epsom salt is my go-to. And I don't know why I didn't use Epsom salt so much last year. I think the reason I didn't want to use Epsom salt so much last year because I had so much compost and I had so much like I had so much uh what was the compost I used last year? Oh, I had bone meal. Yeah, I had these big containers of bone meal, and I used a lot of bone meal instead. But the bone meal is like slow releasing, right? But I should have not done that. I should have just stick to my method and use my Epsom salt. But anyway, you live and you learn. Like I said, you live and you learn. So next, so this gardening season, I'm gonna just go back to my Epsom salt because I already have like I think like 6 bags. Yes, I have like 6 bags of Epsom salt. They're already down there. They're waiting for me to put in the garden. Now I love to use Epsom salt in my garden because I find that I don't have any problem with root rot in my plants. When I transplant, I don't have any issues. When I transplant, I just sprinkle some Epsom salt around in the hole before I put my vegetables inside. Any vegetable, I use Epsom salt. But I put more for my tomatoes. And what the Epsom salt does is it prevents you from having blossom end rot. And you know that thing that comes on your tomatoes, this kind of blackish spots, it prevents you from having that. My tomatoes are glorious, glorious. Like when I put Epsom salt in my soil, like my tomatoes, they just explode. Like sometimes I have to cut the branches of the tomatoes because they're so heavy and the tomatoes just go crazy. So I get so much tomatoes. But I notice when I don't put Epsom salt, I do get some tomatoes, but not as much. So guys, try this in your garden this year and tell me what you think. Tell me what you think, right? And what I like to do is for the tomatoes, I put a tiny bit of Epsom salt where in the roots. When I'm putting the tomatoes in, I put some there. And then when I finish planting my tomatoes, I put Epsom salt on top. So that will give it enough time to, go down into the soil. And when I see the tomatoes is fruiting, I soak Epsom salt in water so that it can dissolve completely. And then I also add some bone meal inside it with some like sometimes I have kombucha. I put kombucha. Like I make so much mixes for my garden. It's just amazing, and they work amazing. Like if I have kombucha, I just put a little bit of kombucha, and I leave it there to soak overnight. Or sometimes I leave it for 3 days, and then I water my tomatoes with it. And my tomatoes love that, love that, love that, love that. They're green and they're beautiful, like I say. So guys, just try these methods. They actually work. They work. They work. Like, I mean, I get so many tomatoes, like I don't even know what to do with tomatoes. Like, I have to be careful when I plant my tomatoes because sometimes I plant too much and I just have tomatoes in abundance, and I'm so grateful for that. But like I said, I learned all these things because every year I try something new. I write things down. I say, oh, that works. That doesn't work. Oh, that works. I'm gonna add something else. It's like when I started doing the Epsom salt with the bone meal, I was like, that works. But what else can I try with it? So I decided to put some kombucha. Sometimes I even add some compost tea to it. And I just make a nice mixture and I add it to my plant. Then I say, okay, let me observe the plant. Okay, I'm a geek. Guys, I just love gardening. I don't know. I just love gardening. I just love to see like what works in my garden and what does not work. It's like I'm so passionate and so like fascinated by plants. I've always been like that since I was a child. So, anyways, I just like to like usually in my garden, I put a section and I say, okay, I'm gonna plant these things here. And this is gonna be my experiment. So I experiment on one side in my garden. And then the other side, I just, it's my regular garden. But I experiment to see what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. So yeah, I do things like that. So that's what I do in my garden, okay? Gardening geek. Because I just love gardening. I just love to see things. Something else I did last year. Last year I planted cucumbers with some, what's that fruit name? It's ground cherries. Guys, I planted cucumbers and ground cherries in this huge pot. Okay? And then I planted ground cherries by itself in a pot. And the ground cherries that was in the pot with the cucumbers, the trees were very short, but they produce massively amount of ground cherries. I was amazed. I was like, huh? But it was so small. I have to go keep picking the ground cherries, keep picking the ground cherries. And every time I pick, it would flowers again. I'm like, what's going on? you know? And then I planted some more ground cherries by itself in a huge pot. And they did amazing. The tree was tall. It had a lot of ground cherries on it. But the ones I was growing with the cucumbers, I couldn't keep up with them because it had so much fruit on it. And they were so small. So when I say small, I mean, it wasn't tiny. They wasn't small. They were like medium size. But the tree by itself was just massive. And that's the first time I've seen like, oh, actually, no, it's not the first time because I had grown ground cherry before and the tree was just like, it was like a shrub actually. I grew a whole line of ground cherries and it was just like a shrub. So I wouldn't say that. Mistake. But these ones, they were actually like a shrub too. They were wide. These ones were wide. The ones I grew before, they were more taller. But I'm like, okay, this year I'm going to plant ground cherries and cucumbers together. The same brand of ground cherries. I'm going to plant it this year and see what's going to happen. Because last year was amazing. And the soil that I put in the pots were the same. So there was no difference in the soil mixture. The only thing different was cucumbers. That's it. So you see, guys, you have to try things. Try things, okay, and see what works. And the last thing we're going to talk about is how to feed your soil. Things that you can put into your soil, like liquid fertilizer for your soil. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that I put in my soil. So you might be surprised, but kombucha. Kombucha, guys, that beautiful kombucha that you like to drink, that is so good for your gut and everything like that. It's excellent for your garden. Excellent for your garden. So I like to put kombucha in my garden. I make a bunch of kombucha and I just poured some and I mix this kombucha with my compost tea. And you have to try that by yourself. So make kombucha, take one section of your garden and make kombucha and compost tea together, mix it up and water your garden. And then the other part, don't do it. And you're going to tell me the difference. Okay. I'm not going to tell you anything. You try it for yourself and tell me what it does for you. All right. So I mix kombucha with my compost tea. So I put my own homegrown compost with some molasses and some kombucha. And I put it in a big container and I leave it outside for about a week. I keep going out there and storing it. And then I water my garden with that. Now, my plants love this. I think it's the fermentation that they love so much. That's what I think. I think there's some good bacteria, something. The ferment is just doing something to the soil. So I love to do that, and my plants just love this thing, so I do it a lot. The next thing I make for my garden is just like I save some food scraps, not any meat or no meat. I don't put no meat, no meat, chicken, like none of that goes into it. Just fruits and vegetables. And then I add some grasses. Like I just go outside and I pull some of the grass. Or when I mow the lawn, I put some of the grass inside the bucket. And I add molasses again. And you know why you want to add molasses? You could add sugar too, but I like to add molasses. I do add sugar sometimes. You can add sugar. If molasses is cheap in your area, use molasses. If sugar is cheaper, then use sugar. So I don't use white sugar though. I use brown sugar. The black looking brown sugar, I use that. And I put like 3 tablespoons of sugar inside the bucket with the food scraps, the vegetable scraps, and I just leave it there to ferment for about 4 days. And it doesn't smell, guys. I did a video on how to make your fermented I did a video on how to not make your liquid fertilizer smell. And this is a trick to it. So if you add sugar to it, it's gonna ferment itself and it's not gonna smell. You know, sometimes you're making liquid fertilizer and it stink. Oh my gosh, it smells like worse than the fish fertilizer. So I I was reading up some stuff, and I was like, how can I not make that thing smelly? Because every time I make it in the past, it was so smelly. My kids would say, Mom, why are you putting this smelly thing on the garden? My husband would be like, oh my gosh, you put that smelly thing on the garden again, the whole place is smelly. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know the plants love it, but the smell is awful. So I was thinking, what can I put inside to make it not smell? So I was like, wait a minute. Sugar. Sugar ferments, but it doesn't smell. And I'm always making fermented stuff. Like I use fruits all the time to ferment. I'm like, I put sugar and it doesn't smell. So I'm like, I should try the same thing. So the first thing I tried was I used just grasses outside with some compost that I had. And I add water to it and I add some sugar and I put it aside for 1 week. And after the week, I opened the bucket. And the bucket was like all the grass and stuff that I put on top was all like, slimy and stuff like that. It wasn't looking nice at all. But there was no, like, it didn't smell stinky at all. It smelled just like fermented, like, kombucha that I'm making. I'm like, aha, bingo. And that is how I came to realize, like, okay, I can use sugar. And then now when I'm fermenting, I'm making my fertilizer for my garden, I just add sugar to it. That's it. I just add sugar. Any liquid fertilizer I'm making for my garden, I add sugar and then it doesn't smell. So use that trick, okay? Add sugar to your ferments and you won't have that stinky, smelly thing. But your plants is definitely going to love it. The next thing I use is worm casting. So I bought red regulars and then I have them in buckets and I just feed them food scraps. And then I have a second bucket in the bottom, which collects the water from the red regulars. And this water, I just dilute it and I put it all over my garden. And my plants, they love it. So the red regulars, they're amazing because you get the warm compost from them. I tend to harvest mine like once a month. Because what I do is when I put the food scraps inside my bin, I also add soil. Like I keep a bucket next to the bucket, the compost bucket with soil inside. And I put my food scraps, my food scraps from the kitchen. And then I just add soil over it. So I tend to have a lot of more compost, like vermicompost, when it's time to harvest. So I like to do it that way. I know some people, they just put the food scraps on top, then they expose the bucket and then the worms go down and then they harvest. But I don't do that because I want a lot. So I put soil in mine. I mix soil, right? So that's what I do. So I use worm casting. And again, worm casting is amazing. You guys can go online and look it up. Worm casting is amazing for the soil. Everything that the soil need, worm casting has it. Worm casting is the worms, they eat the food and then they poops out. And it's really the worm poops you're using in your garden. And it's just great. It has nitrogen, phosphorus, everything that the plant need, that worm casting has it. And the plants really strive well when you use worm casting. So I use that also. I know some people there, especially women, they're like, oh, worms. Oh, I don't think so. But worm castings are very expensive to buy. But if you can come up with a source where you can find your own, it's you're not dealing with the worms, you just buy the worm casting, buy some worm casting, add to your garden. You can also just put the worm casting in water and let it dissolve, dilute it, and just spray it all over your garden, just to make the worm casting go a long way. If you don't want to just sprinkle it all over, you know what I mean? So you can do that too. And then the last thing I put in my garden is mealworm casting. And again, like I told you guys earlier in the video, that I breed my own mealworms. And you can buy mealworms at any pet store. Just make sure you buy live mealworms. Then you bring them home and you give them the then you just actually you have to put them in a container in a warm environment. They have to be warm. So I tend to keep mine on top of my fridge, because on top of my fridge is warm, and I have a big container like this size, a clear one. You want to put in a clear container so you can see what is happening inside the bin when the worms are hatching, when they turn to beetles and stuff like that. My daughter, she's terrified. My older daughter, she's terrified of it. Every time she passed by the fridge, she's like, "Oh my gosh, these things are up there," and they're wiggling all over the place. She's like terrified. I don't have them now, so she's like, "Oh, mom, you got rid of those ones." But little did she know they're gonna come back. All right, it's gonna come back soon. Oh my gosh. When I take them out and I'm like, "Look," she's like, "Oh my gosh," she runs away. But my smaller daughter, she's not scared of them. Only my older daughter, she's scared of them. But anyways, so I I grow them, and again, like I said, you just have to give them the bran. That's it. You just have to give them bran, and then you have to give them some kind of water source. So I give mine the bran, and I give them a piece of banana, or banana, orange, or carrots. So you need to put that inside the container, and they will go and suck on it. You will see like thousands of them are just going and sucking the juices of whether it be carrot, or if you give them tomatoes or anything like that. Some kind of watery fruit you have to put inside the bin, and then they will eat that down. And then when it's finished, just put another one. That really like keeps them moist inside there. Anyways, I'm gonna show you guys, like I said. So these are the things I use, and then like I said, once the mealworms they digest and poops out the bran, then you have this very fine fertilizer for your garden. So that's basically it, guys. If you want to garden like a pro, these are some things that you can put in your garden, and your garden is going to be flourishing, and your garden is going to be amazing, and you are going to harvest food in abundance. And all the things that I'm telling you guys, I use it on everything in my garden. Like whether it be potatoes, cabbages, tomatoes, lettuce, all that kind of good jazz. I put it all over my garden, all on any vegetable, fruit, anything I grow. On my fruit trees, I also do that to my fruit trees. I dig a little hole on the side of the fruit tree, then I just put the fertilizer, or sometimes I just sprinkle it around, and then I put soil around it just to keep it like that. So yeah, you can do all that kind of stuff with your garden. And like I said, I've been gardening for years. So trial and error with many different things. And now I know what works and what does not work for me. And now that I'm going to move to a new gardening area, I also have to learn that area and see what works in that area. So that's going to be an adventure for me. I think actually I'm going to start in pots first before I gardening in the ground, because then it'll give me an opportunity to control my soil inside the pots, and then I would know exactly what would grow before I start to grow in the ground, because I don't want to be wasting money and wasting seeds, because I'm bringing my seeds with me, and I don't know if I'm going to get the same variety of seeds that I have. As you guys can see in my videos, I buy like I have so much seeds. I'm just prepared for my new garden. I'm just prepared. But anyways, guys, this is a video for today. And yeah, we're going to be doing some gardening videos and some chats. I've just been very busy with stuff. So I haven't been doing a lot of live. Neither have I been posting every single day. Yeah. But I promise you guys, I'm going to come back and start um, posting more often than before, because I think I like doing the lives. I enjoy it very much. And I know you guys enjoy the lives too. So thanks for watching. Stay positive, and I'll see you in the next live.